Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the GM. It's your guy, Boulanger. And up next, we're going to continue our conversation, kind of like a part two, about how the Baltimore Ravens can salvage their off season, but also be able to stay competitive in 2023. Okay. And I believe that there's three factors to them being able to do that without Lamar Jackson. Remember, part one was with Lamar Jackson, and part two is going to be without Lamar Jackson. Um, do I think that Lamar Jackson will stay or go? I don't know. I think it's 50-50, 50% he could stay, 50% he can go. Okay. But all I know is that in order to, under this scenario, in order to save our season, the Baltimore Ravens have to become more aggressive. Okay. We can't just continue to sit back and wait day after day after day passes, free agent after free agent after free agent falls off the board, and we just sit and really do nothing. And so this conversation today is going to about how to stay competitive, rebuild, regroup uh, without Lamar Jackson. So let's go. Okay, I believe there's four factors to be able to do this. Okay, factor number one is deciding to trade Lamar Jackson. Okay, that's the aggressive part I mentioned. The Baltimore Ravens have to go to Lamar Jackson and say, look, this thing doesn't seem to be working out. We seem to be far apart. You get out there, talk to teams about a trade. We'll make it public 2 or 3 days later about you being available for a trade, and then that way the ball can get rolling. Okay, I believe 16 to 32 teams will come after Lamar Jackson only because it's about half the league that don't have a real clue their long-term solution at quarterback. Okay, we could certainly include the Jets, Miami. Let's see who else. Tennessee, the Colts, the Texans, Vegas. We jump to the NFC, Atlanta, Tampa Bay, Minnesota, Green Bay, Detroit, the Commanders. That's about it. Let's go with those teams. So at least 10, 12, 15 teams would definitely come after Lamar Jackson. Okay. So and so draft compensation is going to really be a factor uh in what we do at the quarterback position, which is factor number two. So number one, they have to trade Lamar Jackson. Number two, what are they going to do at the quarterback position? Okay, depending on what picks you get. I think if you get a top 10 pick, I think Baltimore could be aggressive, even more aggressive, take their two first round picks with the Lamar Jackson trade and trade up into that top four, top three, and be able to get one of those top four quarterbacks. I don't think if they get anything outside of the top 10 pick, I don't think they have enough draft capital without giving away several years to get up into that top four. And so if they don't have enough draft compensation to get up into one of those top four picks to get a quarterback, I think that's okay. Because I think if that's a scenario at the quarterback position, you go into the season with Tyler Huntley as your starting quarterback. Now, I know that's not ideal, but I think that that's the option that we have. But I think if we do that, then the quarterback room is set as a starter for the season. And then I think you go and get either Hooker, I believe that's his name, from the Tennessee Volunteers, a guy who has a nice arm, has some quick feet, has an ability to read defenses, has an ability to make plays with his legs. Or you go with uh, kind of a uh, kind of a Baltimore connection with what's that guy's name out of Georgia? Stetson Bennett. Nobody knows him better in the NFL right now than Todd Monken. Todd Monken turned him into a Heisman Trophy winner and a champion after just being a walk-on guy. And so I think that Hooker or Stetson Bennett could be a valid draft pick, maybe in the late second or third round for the Baltimore Ravens. And I'm not saying either one of those guys are the long-term answer, but I'm just saying those guys could be available later in the draft, and they could certainly pick a young quarterback to kind of be Tyler Huntley's backup for sure. And so I think that's what the quarterback room would look like. Now, how could that make us competitive? Well, here's why. So then we have to turn to what we do in free agency. We'll come back to the draft in a minute. And so in free agency, I think that you go ahead and solidify your defense. So I think you go ahead and sign Rock Yassin. Now, I don't know if he's still available at the time of this recording, but last I checked, he still was. He's the best cover guy, still available. He's big, strong, fast, good hands, good positioning. He's able to read the quarterback, able to read receivers, able to read routes. And so I think that if they go get him, they solidify that secondary, especially with Williams and Hamilton playing the safeties. Geno Stone coming back. I think you move Brandon Stevenson back to safety, which is really what he played as a rookie because he didn't do well as a cornerback, and then you can beef up the cornerback room as far as depth later on in the draft. Okay. So I think you do that. I think the inside linebacker, as far as free agency, Patrick Queen's not a free agent right now, but he will be basically in a couple of years. So I think you go ahead, pick up his 5th-year option, and plan on signing him long term. Well, why would you sign Patrick Queen long term? The same reason you would sign Patrick Queen, Justin Metabuke, and Broderick Washington, because they're young guys with still a lot of upside, a lot more potential, and so the money you're not paying Lamar Jackson in that $45 to $50 million range, you can break that money up and go ahead, take care of Patrick Queen, and keep the best inside tandem at linebacker in the whole league intact. And you go ahead and pick those young guys up front, pick their contracts up, solidify them. And so now you're solid from front to back. Okay. You still got some question marks at defensive end, but you already know what you're doing at defensive end. You got Bowers there, you got Odafe there, and you got David Ajabo. He's in that position as well. And so what you do is you solidify your defense. So that way, if your offense struggles, and it will at times, you know you have a defense to keep you in games and keep things close. Now, also in free agency, um, you want to go ahead and grab you a veteran because your wide receivers are still young. So you go ahead and grab a guy like a Marvin Jones, get him on like a 2-year deal, something low, 2 years, 10 million, 2 years, 12 million, something like that. A good veteran, locker room guy, leader, still has some good hands, still can run routes, still can make some big time catches. And so you bring him in as a mentor for Rashad Bateman and even Devin Duvernay, whether he stays or goes, Tylan Wallace, James Prochet, they need a good mentor. They have not had that, and Marvin Jones would be that. And I think you go ahead and pick up another guy. See, because the money's now available because you traded Lamar Jackson, that opens up $32 million in cap space. So you go ahead and you get another guy like maybe go ahead and sign Aguilar or go ahead and sign DJ Shark. You pick up one of those guys, which adds more depth to your wide receiver room. Although those guys aren't number ones, again, it solidifies that wide receiver depth. Okay. So that's what we're looking like in free agency, but also you can go ahead and grab a guy like Leonard Floyd. Bring in a veteran, a guy who still can get to the quarterback. He still has a lot of football left. So you can, with that money you save on Lamar Jackson, you make your defense rock solid, grab those couple of veterans at wide receiver, and now you're ready to go to the draft. Okay. So now let's look at the draft. Okay. So Tyler Huntley's your starting quarterback. We got all the free agency moves out of the way. We've already locked up Patrick Quinn. We're picking up his 5th-year option, which has to be done by May 7th of this year. Go ahead and start preparing to sign Metabuke and Broderick Washington. And now you're ready to look towards the draft and offense. Okay, bam. Although you picked up a couple of guys in free agency at wide receiver position, your first round pick is going to be what? It's going to be a wide receiver. You bring another young guy in to compete with Rashad Bateman for that number 1 spot. Okay. You add more depth, more youth, and you make it more dynamic. All right. Because you do have the potential to lose Prochet and Devin Duvernay next year anyway. So getting a young guy is going to be beneficial. Okay. Bam. But you still have your pick again with the number 22 pick, Baltimore Ravens pick. And so then what you do with that pick is you draft the left tackle. Well, why a left tackle versus a left guard? Well, I'm going to tell you why. You take that left tackle because you want him to be the long-term replacement for Ronnie Stanley, who I'm certain at this point, the Baltimore Ravens would get off of his contract in 2025. And so you draft a young left tackle to already be in-house to replace him. But what do you do with it with that left tackle in his first year? You slide him inside the left guard. You see what I'm saying? So now he gets NFL experience. And then when he's ready to take over for Ronnie Stanley, he already knows the game. He's familiar with the blocking schemes. He's familiar with the offense. And if Ronnie Stanley gets hurt, he can still kick outside. So you draft the left tackle. So now you got a number one wide receiver potentially, a replacement in left tackle for Ronnie Stanley, and so now you're building for the future. Okay, then what do you do in the second round? Because I'm certainly if they traded Lamar Jackson, they would pick up a second round pick in 2022. Okay, that would have to be part of the deal because the Baltimore Ravens originally do not have a pick. Okay, so with that second round pick, what would they draft? I'm gonna tell you what you would draft. You draft the best running back on the board. Well, why would they go running back? They got J.K., Gus Edwards, and Justice Hill. Well, here's why. Those three guys all three have major knee injuries, and all those guys had some lower body issues last year. Okay. Also, all three of those guys, J.K., Gus, and Justice Hill, they're all free agents at the end of next year. And one position you don't really put a whole lot of money in is the running back position. So if you got a young running back who's has some ability this year in the draft, what would he do? He would learn from the veterans in front of him. So even if the Baltimore Ravens decide to keep JK in 2024 with a new contract, you still already have his backup in place. You follow me? If JK costs too much or JK wants to go somewhere else, you still have JK's replacement in place. So whether he's a backup or whether he's JK's replacement, it's already in place. So you got your wide out, your left tackle, and your running back of the future. Okay. Then whatever you do later on in the draft, okay, third round, what you do is you draft a right guard. Why right guard? Because Kevin Zeitler's getting older, you need a replacement. See, what we're doing is building for the future, although we got people already in place for 2023. Okay. Then whatever the rest of the draft looks like, it looks like. Okay. Now, that's what I think should happen in the draft. All right. So those are the three factors, or four factors, in fact, that Baltimore needs to do to save their season. Okay. Number one, be more aggressive and pursue a trade. Sorry about that, with Lamar Jackson. Number two, decide what they're going to do at the quarterback position. Okay. If you trade Lamar, you go with Tyler Huntley if you don't get one of those top four picks, and go ahead and grab a Hendon Hooker or a Stetson Bennett. And then pick up some veteran wide receivers. Grab Rock Yassin, maybe a Leonard Floyd, because you have that available cap space from Lamar Jackson vacating that money. And then you go ahead and draft first round wide out with the pick you get for Lamar, first round left tackle, and second round running back. And I think that creates some depth, that creates some competition, and it also sets us up to be in good position next year, because even if you don't resign Tyler Huntley next year, you already got Stetson Bennett or Hendon Hooker who would have been in place from this year. If you don't resign J.K., Gus, or Justice Hill from this year, you already have the young running back from the second round this year. And then if Ronnie Stanley has any complications with being healthy, you drafted a left tackle who can kick outside, right? So that's how I think we can stay competitive. I think that if we come into the season, add those pieces, draft those draft picks, that kind of thing, I think we're in good shape. And then we roll into 2024 draft. Sorry about that. We roll into a 2024 draft with 2 first-round picks. Listen, that's my take. Somebody trying to get in on this phone, so let me see if I can get this. I appreciate you guys. I'm your guy, Boulanger. This is the GM, and I'm out.